So we're all here today to meet Maarten Dalmijn and talk about sprint goals. So Maarten, he is a trainer, he's a speaker, a consultant at Dalmijn Consulting. And really his goal is to help teams beat the feature factory all over the world. So, millions of practitioners have read his best practice articles on. He has a blog and he's got some great articles on Agile, on Scrum, on product management, and I believe Jeff will put a link for that blog in the chat. He also specializes in helping companies to build empowered teams, right, that can discover better ways of delivering value. We feel honored to have him here. He's a frequent speaker at Fortune 500 companies, government organizations, international industry conferences. He's an ambassador and editor at Serious Scrum, the largest Scrum publication on Medium. I love the articles that I read from there. And most importantly, he is the author of the #1 new release on Amazon in the what category was that, Maarten? In the
software development, I believe, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's a category.
It's a great book, right? So his book is Driving Value with Sprint Goals. You'll see a little picture of that here. And so without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Maarten.
So I'm going to talk about driving value with sprint goals. So I wrote a book, was foolish enough to spend 3 years on it. And basically, I hope after this talk, you understand how important sprint goals are and how you can use them to do better than simply keeping the hamster wheel turning. Like just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and how you can actually build products that make a difference. So as I said, I wrote the book on sprint goals, which is actually pretty easy because there was no other book. So that's the only reason. So what's really funny is while I was writing the book, which took quite some time, the #1 question I received is, how can you write a whole book on sprint goals? And that kind of made me, on the one hand, right, it kind of made me sad, you know what I mean? Because I was thinking like, yeah, why am I this fool spending all this time writing a book? But on the other hand, I also understood it. It made sense to me why people would be asking this question, because I was that person too. I sprint goals a few years back before I wrote the book, they kind of felt redundant to me. I was kind of thinking, what is the point of sprint goals? Because very often they're like an afterthought. You do them at the end of sprint planning. And what's the point of repeating something you already know you must do? It's kind of redundant. So I understand it. I understood it quite well. But then, something happened which kind of changed my perspective. And I'm going to tell that story. So basically, I was a product owner for a team and I was working at a big corporation and they moved me to another team. And my old team didn't have a product owner and they were not happy. So basically the main question they asked is, hey, so they were really sad. They came to my desk and they were like, what can we do? We don't have a product owner. How can we survive? And yeah, I was really kind of felt sad for them and my hands were tied. I had enough time to help them. I can do multiple teams, but I was not allowed, big corporation style. They wanted me to focus on my new team. And I kind of threw them a bone. I kind of said, why not try setting a single sprint objective for every sprint? Just talk to your stakeholders and ask them, what's the one most important thing we're trying to achieve right now? And then create the user stories and everything yourself based on having a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve. And I was kind of thinking, I'm giving them the worst advice ever and it's never going to help. But I said, hey, at least I did my part, tried to help them. But then a few minutes later, something happened. They came to me, actually, the developer came to me at my desk, speaking a little bit faster with excitement, telling me like, life is great, we're delivering better than ever, and our stakeholders are super happy. And I was really surprised because I wasn't expecting that. And I was intrigued. So then something happened, actually. I suddenly moved teams. So the Scrum Master came to my desk and was super stressed because there literally was nothing. There was no sprint backlog, no vision, no product vision, no product backlog, no product, nothing, absolutely nothing. And it was a he. So he started talking to me, Maarten, we need to do a sprint 0. We need to do a team charter. We need to create the team values, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no. We're not going to do any of those things. I think we should just talk to stakeholders first, just ask them, what's the one problem, the biggest problem you're currently facing, and just try to understand what we can help them with. And the problem they were facing is it was a finance team. So once per month, you have to close the month. And it was taking way longer than expected. And basically, they were always late. So it was supposed to take 24 hours, but it actually took like 5 days or longer. And with that information, I actually went to the team and I just told them, okay, so monthly closure is the biggest problem. I don't know where the data comes from. I don't know how it exactly works. I know it's a report. And let's just do a proof of concept. We're going to automate one of the, I don't know, there were like 10 reports or something like that. We're going to automate one of them. You can decide which one. And we're going to see if it's possible. And I said, best case, we succeed. Worst case, we figure out all the obstacles that are in the way. And for me, that's a win. And I will manage these expectations. And something really surprising happened, actually. So we immediately got started. We had a single ticket. And actually, we built a proof of concept and we were able to automate one report. And then after we had created that single ticket, we actually created all the other work together. We broke it down. And at the end of the sprint, we had something running on production, a single report. It was working and the stakeholders were blown away because imagine this is a big corporation. They are used to teams kind of like doing research for many weeks, making team charters, talking, and not getting results. And this really showed me the power of doing this. So we actually were able to deliver results very quickly. And with this experience, it suddenly clicked in my head. I suddenly understood because I'm an avid reader. So I actually made all these connections. I'm like, why didn't I see this before? It makes perfect sense that this works. And before we're going to talk about that, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a question. What belief applies more to your daily work? And I want to stress life isn't black and white, but on the left-hand side, you have belief A. So with the right amount of expertise and preparation, we can make awesome plans that don't have to change. Or belief B, no matter what we do, even with infinite time to prepare, our plans have to change. So please vote A or B. And I want to stress there's no right or wrong answer here. It also depends on your context, of course, but it's just kind of to get you thinking. And now I'm going to kind of flip the script. Would your answer change if instead it's about your stakeholders? What do your stakeholders believe? Do they hold the same belief as you, or do they have a different belief? Think about it. So does your answer change or does it remain the same? Please answer in the chat. So I want to stress, it's really important to be aware of this, what they are thinking, what you're thinking, because this difference of opinions can cause different expectations. So what I actually see very often, especially at bigger companies, actually, I see a conflict of beliefs. So you actually see that the people that are doing the work, they actually usually are more in the camp of your plans will have to change. There are going to be surprises. But the people, the higher up you go, the more they believe your plans should be rock solid. And if your plans are not good, then you did something wrong. And because they believe this, you actually see the planning cycle of madness happening. So basically, we fail to meet our plans, roadmaps, and timelines. Everybody is sad, management is angry, and they tell people, you need to do a better job at predicting and planning, and you need to step up your game. And then everybody runs off, more time planning, more time meetings, talking, leaving no stone unturned. And then actually a tragedy happens. We overfit our plans because we're injecting noise and speculation. Our plans become disconnected from reality and rooted in our imagination. And then actually our plans become an anchor. they stifle the ability to collaborate and adapt. Because, for example, a team will not give you help because it's not on their roadmap or they have got something else planned. And then we are locked to our plans and they drag us down. They prevent collaboration, they prevent learning and discovery. And then we fail to meet our plans, roadmaps, and timelines. And it goes, I've seen this happen over and over again at some companies. And that's why it's really important to understand if there is a difference of beliefs. So why does this happen, right? I think the left-hand side, which I call in the plan we trust, it's what we feel comfortable with. The plans look great on paper. We feel smart, It's what we're taught in school. You've got all the information, study the test, you can get 100%. We love going down that road. It's what we're very used to. But what we're not good at is the dragons, like there's a dragon. We don't know how big it is or how we need to deal with it. And we're not going to go there. We're scared. We're scared of the unknown stuff. Nope. Let's please go into a meeting room and talk about plans. And that's very natural. And what's interesting is in the world of military warfare, they actually encountered this problem hundreds of years back, even thousands of years back, but they didn't find a good solution then yet. So we can learn a lot by studying the world of military warfare. I want to stress, I don't want to glorify warfare in any way, but we can learn important lessons from studying warfare. So actually in military warfare, they have this concept of friction. And actually this is General Karl von Clausewitz. He wrote a very famous book on war in around 1830 or something. And what he basically said is, everything in war is easy, but the simplest things even become difficult when you're faced with friction. And friction is what distinguishes real war from war on paper. And the examples he uses, for example, in the book are something like, imagine the cavalry is coming, but the ground is a little bit muddy. So they are 3 hours late. And that has a big impact on the battlefield, right? Or you've positioned your artillery, but suddenly the day is very foggy, so they don't see the enemy. So this is friction. These are surprises, and this means that your initial plans might not be good enough. And there's nothing you can do about it up front because we cannot predict the weather that accurately even today. And how did they solve this? It's something which is called Auftragstactiek or mission command. And every mission, they start with the commander's intent. So this is a real example from D-Day. And it consists of two things. What are we trying to achieve? So what's the objective? And why does it matter? So what's the relevant context? So in D-Day, they wanted to secure key bridges, road junctions, and other locations in Normandy. And why? Because they wanted to allow the ground invasion forces to advance and land. So this is a really good, powerful technique that they used. And this is why it clicked with me, because they usually don't give plans in the army, they give missions. And you might notice saying, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, or everybody has a plan until they get punched into the face. And the main reason why they do this is because in the military, they are very aware of the fact that your plans will have to change. And they want the objective to always be more important than meeting the plan. And a good example is in the German army, actually, they try to hire officers that were slightly rebellious, that would actually go against the plan, that would have enough guts to do that if the situation would require it. And that's why it's so important to follow this approach. So if what you're doing is clear, so you're in a situation with no friction, which means you have no fog up beforehand. So before starting, you see everything, you have perfect information. That also means you don't have a fog of speculations because you see everything, you cannot speculate, and all your plans and actions are going to produce the desired results. A good example is these stairs. They've got a beginning, you've got an end, you see all the steps, just follow the steps and life is going to be great. But if friction increases, then actually you need to have expertise, you need experts. And a good example is making espresso. So I've got a very fancy espresso machine. It actually was a big mistake because I'm the only one that knows how it works. So whenever we have guests, I'm the only one making espresso. So it's not rocket science, but you do need to have certain expertise, and experts know all the steps you have to follow. My mother, for example, she wouldn't know all the steps. She would do a terrible job because she doesn't have such a machine and she doesn't know how to do it. So if you don't have expertise, you're going to have to fog it beforehand. So you don't know everything before starting. When you try to do it, you're probably going to make all kinds of wrong assumptions. You're going to have the fog of speculation, and your plans and actions will not produce the desired results. So the key things to keep in mind here, you can make good plans, and there are going to be few surprises for experts. That's the key thing here. Now imagine if what you're doing is complex. A good example is the Jaws movie. So I don't know if anybody has seen the Jaws movie, but making that movie was an absolute nightmare. So Steven Spielberg actually developed PTSD from making that movie. This is what he said, by the way. And basically, before starting, there were two crucial mistakes problems that he encountered. So he was already a very established filmmaker, making many TV movies. So he knew what he was doing. He was not world famous yet, but he knew he was an experienced filmmaker. And actually, during filming, they had a mechanical shark, Bruce, I think the name was, that kept breaking down. And the other problem was when you film at sea, every shot, the light is slightly different due to the way it's reflected in the sea. So it's very difficult to splice scenes together because the lighting is going to be very different. So long story short, the movie was triple over budget, and every day of filming, Steven Spielberg would arrive with a rewrite of the script because they actually rewrote the script so you wouldn't see the shark, because the whole script originally was centered around the idea of the mechanical shark, but mechanical shark didn't work. And the movie was a massive success. So what I want to stress, even if you have expertise, you're going to have the fog of beforehand. You don't know enough before starting. You have to inspect and adapt, and your plans and action are not going to produce the desired results. If what you're doing is chaos, then basically you have overbearing friction. So that means, for example, let's say the room you're sitting in right now, I hope it doesn't happen, but a water pipe bursts. Then you're immediately going to run and try to do something about it. You're not going to go in a meeting room and think for half an hour, no, because then your whole floor and all your precious stuff is going to be damaged. So you need to act, and you need to get to a more predictable state. So you're going to have a lot of surprises. The long story short, the more friction, the more surprises, lower your predictability, and the lower your ability to make strong plans. So now I'm going to ask you some questions to kind of see if I got the message across. So what happens when you do too much planning and we're doing complex work? Please write your ideas in the chat. So what you're doing is complex, and you're going into a meeting room, talking. Just going to give you some time to think. Awesome. I see a lot of comments. So you're going to go into the planning cycle of madness, or actually you're going to have plans that are going to be worse because you're speculating. You're introducing the fog of speculation because before starting, you just simply don't know enough. Now imagine if what you're doing is complicated, right? So it's not complex, it's complicated. So few surprises for experts. What happens when you do too little planning? So you're actually not planning enough. You're just kind of winging it. What's going to happen with your plans? Are they going to be good, or are they going to be terrible? Please write in the chat. Yeah. So if what you're doing is complicated and you're not going to spend enough, then you're going to set yourself up for failure because you're going to have many surprises that you could have prevented. So yeah, it's not the best approach. What happens when you lack expertise and you're doing complicated work? So you're going to have good ability to make plans, very few surprises for experts, but the problem is you don't have experts. See lots of people writing in the chat. It will appear as complex. So that you will think what you're doing is very unpredictable, but actually the problem is you need expertise. So this is something which is very important to be aware of. So basically your situation determines like the best way of acting, but as well, if you lack expertise, you may make the wrong judgment call. And another problem is not all work is the same, right? I mean, it could be that you're adding some small improvements, quite predictable, but if you build a new product, it might be very complex. So that even makes life more difficult. So what's really important, if what you're doing is complicated or simple, which means you can make very good plans, it's okay to have the plan and the goal baked in to the plan, because you can trust the plan. You don't need to make changes to the plan, or at least very little changes. But the moment what you're doing is so high in friction that even experts cannot predict and plan, then you must have a goal. So in the case of chaos, it's get to a more predictable situation. But if what you're doing is complex, then you need a goal. Like, what are we trying to achieve? Because you while doing the work, you will discover all the steps you need to do. You will get more information. Every step you take will help shape the way. And you need to keep your boots on the ground and adapt to what's unfolding in front of you. And that means you need to have explicit goals that are separate from your plans. So the TLDR is, if what you're doing is plan driven, you don't need agile. And if what you're doing is complex, you definitely need agile, and you need explicit goals. And if what you're doing is in the chaos state, please try to get to a more stable situation where you can at least predict and plan a little bit. So if what you're doing is complex, there are far more things you don't know than that you do know. You're going to have many surprises, even if you with all the expertise in the world. And if what you do is too much planning, then you're going to have speculation and noise, assumptions to make up for things that you can know. So you're actually going to make things worse. You're going to have this anchor. You're going to enter the planning cycle of madness. So what you should do is actually start with humble plans, right? So humble plans means you should start with simple plans. You should plan later when you have better information, when the fog of beforehand becomes less. And guided by the sprint goals and product goals, you should adapt and create your plans. And that will reduce what you don't know. I want to stress, it's very easy to take the wrong approach. And I realized I kind of already spoiled the answer to this one, right? But basically, when you get a book deal, you get a contract, you need to tell them how long it's going to take. And in the contract, it actually says, if you're late, they may hire a ghostwriter, pay that ghostwriter out of your royalties to finish your book. So long story short, it's not your book. You're never going to get paid. I mean, unless it is a massive success. So it's really important that you hit the timelines you put in the contract. So I actually spent a weekend writing. I finished around 20%. So how many of these timelines did I hit? Actually, one, the first one. And that was because it was finished before signing the contract. And I want to stress, if you conclude, it doesn't mean, wait, let me go back. It doesn't mean that writing a book is complex, because I had never written a book before. So I don't know if it's complex or complicated. I want to stress, but I want the important point to take into my account, even if you write such a book and you know what you're doing, at least in terms of understanding these concepts, it's still very easy to get it wrong. So how do you fix this? You start with humble planning. Every step you take should help shape the way. Plan more later when you know more. It's not about planning less. It's about planning when you actually know more, and not when you believe you know certain things, or you make them up. And you have to start with intent, lead with the context. What are we trying to achieve? Why does it matter? Because then you can inspect and adapt as you do the work. So what's the sprint goal? Very simple. It's just the commander's intent of the sprint. What are we trying to achieve? And why does it matter? It's the same thing as in the military. It's the mission, it's the objective. And it guides the creation of our plans so that we can achieve the desired results. So I want to stress, it all sounds very nice, but it's also really important. And these are just some sound bites you can use. How do you convince different stakeholders of using sprint goals? So I was a product owner and a product manager. How I sold it to them is, you can be more lazy. You know what I mean? You get more time to talk to customers. The team can actually make decisions. You can spend time on the stuff you like instead of hours in sprint plannings and meetings. So it's going to save you time, so you can do the things you like. Stakeholders will get what they want sooner because you get better collaboration and more focus. So how I always tell them is, we can work on 3 things at once. All 3 of them will be delivered later. and you won't have control over what gets delivered first, or we do one thing at a time. We have control over what gets delivered first, and you will get it sooner. So what do you want? You want us to work on 3 things at once or 1 thing at a time? Please let me know. And they always want to work on 1 thing at a time. The business will get more valuable solutions because they understand what we're trying to achieve. So maybe there's a simpler way. A good example is I worked on an infrastructure team. They came up with a sprint goal. And actually during the sprint, they discovered the solution wasn't feasible, but they actually found a solution that they could do in a few days that had the same monetary results. Awesome. And a very important reason is that for sprint goals is that developers will actually be less stressed. Because what you tend to see at companies that don't use sprint goals, they often use sprint completion rates. So did they complete 99 or 95% of the velocity at the beginning of the sprint? So when you use sprint goals, you don't commit to the velocity, you commit to the sprint goal. So it could be 50%, could be 70%. So there is far less stress because your estimates are just wrong most of the time, unfortunately. So how do you create these strong sprint goals? The FOCUS acronym. So the FOCUS acronym is actually the same thing as invest for user stories. So fun, come up with a title, make it fun if possible, at the very least make it memorable, because then it's going to be dropped in conversation. For example, Project Mayhem is a title, Manhattan Project is an example of a title that was used if you saw them Oppenheimer. It just makes it easier to talk about it. You just have a label. That's the very least. Outcome oriented. What are we trying to achieve? So not delivering the feature, but what is delivering that feature going to help us achieve? What kind of customer value or business value or both? Collaborative. So make the sprint goal together. So it's actually, you should create it together. Ultimate. What is the relevant context? Why are we trying to do this? So not just the goal, but the relevant context so you can understand why the goal matters. And singular, 1 thing, not 2 things, not 3 things, 1 thing. So here's a good example. This is a real world sprint goal I've discovered. You can read it. All can read it. Finalized last name search and first name morphology. Index 80% of remaining data. 3 other stories. Establish search replication validation protocol. Refactor artifact dictionary schema. I'm already falling asleep when reading it, to be fair. So what do you think? Is there a fun or memorable title? Is it outcome oriented? Can we come up with a different plan? Is it collaborative? So you can write, but we'll walk through it together, right? So is it fun? No, absolutely not. It's extremely not fun. There's no title at all. Is it outcome oriented? Absolutely not. It's just some stuff we have to do. We don't know what we're trying to achieve with the stuff we're doing. Is it collaborative? Maybe. We don't know. Maybe the product owner gave them this list. Maybe they came up with it. We don't know. We don't have enough information. Ultimate. Do you know why this stuff matters? Do you know what they're trying to achieve? Do you have the relevant context? No. Is it a single objective? Absolutely not. So that's why this is a really helpful acronym. And I want to stress this example is actually from SAFe. So if you Google SAFe, you can find this example. This is what they consider to be a good sprint goal. So here's a good example. Make onboarding great again. You have a simple title. Increase proportion of users that create a project with a budget within 30 days after signing up to 30%. Why? Because we actually were talking to users and we actually discovered that they were struggling during onboarding. We saw many people fall off. And that means they never come back. So this is an example of a real sprint goal, which provides sufficient context. So I want to stress, if you're unable to set sprint goals, that's symptomatic of your situation. And there are many different reasons. This list is not exhaustive, but it's very important to be aware. If you cannot use sprint goals, that means something about your situation. For example, maybe you have too many competing priorities. Maybe you're a feature factory. You don't even know what you're trying to achieve. You're just delivering features. Or you're a component team. So you just have to deliver technical stuff and you don't know what it belongs to. Could also be that you're working on a product late in the product life cycle. So you're only doing all these small improvements because you're going to sunset it in a while. It could also be that you've got a huge team. Let's say you've got a team of 20 people. It's very difficult to have a common goal. Could also be that you're focused on keeping everyone busy. So you're not focusing on flow, but you just want every developer to be 100% busy. So there are many reasons why sprint goals are not really working in your situation. You need to think about that. And I'm not saying you have to fix those things, but you should fix those things before you use sprint goals, because otherwise they're not going to work. So now I'm going to make it interactive again. Sprint goal mistakes. Everything in your sprint has to relate to the sprint goal. Why is that a mistake? Please write in the chat. Continue. No, like the main purpose of the sprint goal is to make meeting the objective more important than following plan. It doesn't mean everything has to relate to the sprint goal. It just means if, sorry for my language, shit hits the fan, we're going to double down on the one most important thing. If we have more time, we can also finish other stuff. But what you have to realize is when the sprint starts, time quality and resources, I hate that word, are fixed. The number of team members are fixed. So scope must be flexible. So that's why it shouldn't be the case, because if it's 100% of your capacity, your estimates are wrong, might be 120%, you don't have flexible scope, you're going to have technical debt, or people are going to work in the weekends. You don't want that. Beginning talking about the sprint goal, sprint planning. Why is that a mistake? So think about it, right? What is the sprint goal and why is it important? Especially if you think about stakeholders. Give the answer. You should already discuss it at the sprint review because it's what you're promising, you're committing to trying to achieve. So your stakeholders need to be aware. And what I usually tend to do is with the team, we come up with a draft sprint goal. We tell them, hey, stakeholders, this is kind of the direction we're going. What do you think? Could be a little bit smaller, could be a little bit bigger, but this is the direction. It could still potentially change, but we're thinking of this. What do you think? So yeah, then they know that this is the one thing we're working on. We might also finish some other things, but this, if stuff goes differently than expected, we're going to focus on this one most important thing because we all agreed this is the one most important thing. So here's the third mistake: planning everything from the start versus doing gradual planning. And I actually want to stress, I actually saw a post of Jeff Sutherland who actually thinks you should estimate everything. So we have a very different opinion, and that's okay, right? But I will die on this hill, so to say. I really think you should not never do this. So why is that? Why should you not plan everything from the start? It's because everything, like your estimates are imperfect. You don't know everything. You're pulling in three backlog items. Maybe it has the size of 5. Maybe it has the size of 6. So pull it in gradually and then let the reality of the work dictate how much work you pull in. Don't make it a batch process. So actually, I want to stress, so anaconda style Scrum, right? This is how I call it. It's kind of like an anaconda can eat a goat, then lie in the sun for a few weeks. Life is great. It's a batch process. That's how most teams do Scrum. They plan everything from the start. If you do hummingbird style Scrum, which is actually you're like a flower, you zip, like a bird that zips from flower to flower, then you gradually do the work. And that means that the reality is going to dictate how much work you pull in instead of your imagination and your wrong estimates pushing work in. So reverse engineering outcomes from features you intend to deliver. Why is this a mistake? Please write in the chat. I think this is a pretty obvious one. Well, it's because feature don't deliver value. It's what they make possible to deliver value. And that's why you should start the other way around. You should understand, what are we trying to make possible for the customer? What is their problem? What are their struggles? Like, it's about creating value for them, or maybe capturing business value, but you need both. And if you don't know why you're doing something, somebody just says, we need a feature, and you make up why you're doing it. It's just, yeah, bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. Like, so start the other way around. So I want to end with this one, and this is a really important one. Don't do sprint goals because they're part of the Scrum Guide. I'm not fanatic about sprint goals. I mean, I understand. I hope I have convinced you why they're important. But I want to really stress, there are situations, as I showed you in that slide, where sprint goals don't make sense. But it's also really important to realize that may also mean that Scrum doesn't make sense for your situation. So this is a big slide, but it's very important. Every Scrum event is related to the sprint goal. So sprint planning, initial plan to meet the sprint goal, daily Scrum, optimizing the probability of building a product increment to realize the sprint goal, the sprint time box during which the Scrum team attempts to build a product. So everything is related to the sprint goal. And even the Scrum team. A team is a group of people working towards a common goal, the sprint goal. And the only reason for canceling the sprint is when the sprint goal becomes obsolete or is no longer relevant. So it's crucial for Scrum. It's not something optional. And that's what keeps the heart of Scrum beating, right? So if you see this picture, the Batman lights shining in the sky, you might hear a melody, or Darth Vader, you might hear a melody like dun, dun, dun. That's called a leitmotif. It's a German word for leading motive. It's a catching recurring theme. A lot of great movies have this recurring theme because they weave the emotions in the movie, like different scenes together. And that's the role of the sprint goal. In every event, it resurfaces and plays a key role. It's just like the leitmotif. So if you can do sprint goals, reconsider Scrum. I want to stress, sprint goals are demanding. They're the cherry on top of the cake. So if what your team is doing, they're doing calico cat sprints, right? So they're like a patchwork of all these random disjointed things. It's a symptom of something else. You can use dysfunction mapping to figure out what's going on. And then you need to think about, do I want to fix it? Do I have to fix it? I don't know, right? Depends on your situation. But I really would strongly say it might be a very good reason to reconsider using sprint goals in Scrum unless you address those issues. If you're doing feature factory sprints so that you don't know the outcomes because you're not doing discovery, start doing discovery, start talking to customers. And you can still use sprint goals, just use them as outputs. It will still help people to rally around a common goal, even if it's producing an output. It's not optimal, but don't go reverse engineering outcomes. Like, do discovery, because then you can focus on real outcomes. And if you're in that lucky situation where you do discovery and you can have outcome-oriented sprints, use focus and don't start there. Like, don't go for the cherry on the cake, because if you've got a very mushy cake base, the cherry will sink in it and the cake will look terrible. So don't do that. If you remember one thing from this talk, the more we try to prevent sucking at predicting, the more we will guarantee to suck at adapting. Let your plans emerge as you do the work, guided by your sprint goals and protocols. And don't take my word for it. Just try it out and see if they work. It's what I did, and that's what changed my mind. And thank you very much. And yeah, we still have some time for questions. That's great.
All right. Well, let me go see if I can go and find the first question that we had.
Yeah.
Further up, just let me look here one moment. I want to make sure I don't miss anyone.
I think goes all the way up to Bob. We had a question about tying sprint goals to Commander's 10 or something towards that.
Yeah, what made you connect the idea of friction in the war sense to Agile and Scrum?
Yep, there it is. I see it too.
Yeah. So Auftragstactiek is like 200 years old. And what I found fascinating is actually they were dealing with these problems very long before the Agile Manifesto was created. And they found a very good solution for it. And they are still using it today in Ukraine. For example, as terrible as that situation is, the Russians are not using it, by the way, as far as I know. And I want to stress, I don't want to glorify war, but it's just a very important technique. And I've actually been fortunate enough to speak at organizations, also military organizations. And they operate this way. Like, it starts with goals, with the mission, and they are very disciplined. And we actually can learn a lot from studying those organizations, because the view of them following orders all the time and just chain of command, it's very outdated. I mean, you've got the magnificent book Team of Teams, and as well the book The Art of Action, which kind of maybe connected to Agile and Scrum.
Thank you. So Daniel had one. He says the make onboarding great again goal is a big goal. There could be many reasons why users are failing, and many would need to be fixed across multiple sprints to hit that 30% goal. How would you decompose a large sprint goal into smaller sprint size goals?
Yeah. So I think, so this is a real world example. And of course, I made it simpler for the slide, but we actually did a lot of interviewing with customers. So we had a pretty good idea as well. We could see where people got stuck. So it was not a huge amount of work to fix that. And I want to stress, if you put something as a small soundbite, you know what I mean, like I did now, but it was possible to complete it in one sprint. And if it isn't possible, right, it also depends what you want to do. For example, if you want to have gradual improvements, don't have a super ambitious sprint goal. If you really want to force people to be very innovative and think out of the box, make it a little bit crazy, because you're going to have different ideas. So that's kind of the two different flavors I see. But this was a very reasonable sprint goal, grounded in reality.
So I see your hand, Karen, and we'll get to those. I have a few more in the chat first. One was mine. Are you willing to share the slides afterwards? I could send out to folks.
Absolutely, no problem.
So from Jim, we had a question. Is it a problem if a subset of your Scrum team has no ability to impact the one defined sprint goal? Example, they are working on other unrelated stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's suboptimal in a way, right? So what I can say is, so here's where we get back to the slide where I show you, like, you've got too big a team, or you're working on too many different things. I've been in teams, like I've actually worked in a team that was actually building integrations. So you had one WordPress developer doing PHP, you've got a Salesforce developer doing C#. That's an extreme case, right? But what I could tell is, if you have a daily Scrum, nobody really cares about what the others are doing. You know, they might ask sometimes some API questions, but so what the person is describing, or the who asked, is somewhere in between, you know? And maybe you cannot change it. Maybe it is the way it is. But I can tell you one thing: if you always have one sprint goal relating to one team, because what they're doing is most valuable, you know what I mean? It's going to be kind of sad for the other team members. So I don't see it as an optimal way of solving this. It's a symptom of something else. And do you want to fix it? Yes or no? Yeah, that I cannot decide that.
So what is a symptom?
Sorry?
What
do you
would
mean?
you symptom is?
I mean, for example, you could be that they're working on two products. You know what I mean? The problem is that they're working on multiple products at the same time. Yeah, then they're not going to have the same goal, most likely.
No.
So.
Okay. Karen, did you have a question? I see you put your hand down, but.
Yes. Just wanted to say, we now understand the value of you taking all that time to write that book, Maarten.
Thank you.
So, excellent. And I wanted to know, how reasonable, feasible is an approach like this? And have you ever seen it done for, like, Medicaid projects, or, a state Medicaid agency? They want to develop a PMO. So,
yeah,
what have you seen?
Yeah, so what have I seen? So what I can tell you, one thing, for example, let's just phrase it this way, right? A lot of companies choose to do safe, and I get that. It's because their main problem is delivering stuff, and you're going to coordinate all these teams to deliver something. And if that's the name of the game, right? If you're happy with that, then don't use sprint goals. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you're trying to achieve. So in the example you're giving, right? like I said, sprint goals set a pretty high bar. Yeah, so I would always say start small. For example, start with a feature-based sprint goal, see if it helps. But if that's not possible, because yeah, like I said, there are all these other things going on, then you should fix that first. So the long story short is, the bigger the companies, the more silos, the more difficult sprint goals become. And yeah, if you try to use sprint goals with focus, which is a very high bar, you're going to keep bumping into all these silo problems. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Have you ever seen it done successfully or marginally successfully?
Yeah, I've absolutely seen it done successfully. Yes, but I
For
mean,
instance, like a case study or, something
case
you could-
studies. No, I've never seen a case study on sprint goals, to be fair, unfortunately. But I can tell you one thing: I've received many messages from people that actually told me how much a difference it's made. It's anecdotal evidence. I agree, but I've received many messages from people that actually said it made a world of a difference. And my personal experience is the same. But I'm also really frank. There are also situations where you're just going to be frustrated if you try to do it.
Mhm. Have they been like state or federal agencies? Have you reached
No,
that
no.
mountaintop yet?
No,
I'm
not yet,
just
not yet.
curious.
No, not yet. So to be frank, no, I don't think they were at stake. But for example,
All right.
I'm working at very big Fortune 500 companies, and what I can tell you is, I'm not at the point with many of these companies where I'm actually using sprint goals. I'm actually working on the symptoms first. So you're like,
Uh-huh.
what are the symptoms? Because and that's what I would suggest. Do something like dysfunction mapping. Figure out like, hey, what are the problems we're experiencing, and do we want to fix those? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And a plug for dysfunction mapping. I have workshops, so I have upcoming workshops coming. If you want to take a deep dive on dysfunction mapping, just go to my website, scrummastersoftheuniverse.org, and you'll find it there under training. Yeah, and I would say also make sure you get the book, read the book. It's a lot of these questions are in here, and I really like the part of why we should stop obsessing over velocity. I'll just say that, but
Didn't cover that today.
yeah, that's I would love to cover that sometime. But Deanna has, I think we have time for a couple more questions here. Deanna,
It's
she
lovely that you're here again, Diana. Like,
yeah, it's good to see you. So in your presentation, you wrote that plan-driven or implicit projects, agile is unnecessary. Is that so? Would Kanban practices not also fit?
yeah, I mean, yeah, they can fit, right? But I think the key thing here is agile is about really adapting, right? Yeah, that if you use it in that sense, if you say like Kanban is an agile framework, yeah, then we're entering a different discussion. Kanban can work, absolutely, but you're not going to have these surprises. So you're not going to really need the agile like component, let's so to speak, the adaptation, because you can make really good plans. Does that answer your question, Diana?
That's fair. I just have some teams that have a lot of like ServiceNow tickets, and they're trying to find ways to make sure that they don't miss them, that they're getting them done in a timely basis. And so putting up a Kanban board could help visualize it, although that doesn't mean you have to use Kanban practices, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, so the main thing is I would expect if what you're doing is really plannable, you're going to have very few surprises. Yeah, you can manage to, you could actually work with sprints pretty well. You know what I mean? Like you could actually do the Anaconda style Scrum potentially. You don't need Kanban either. You know what I mean? But you don't need the Scrum events, maybe even because yeah, you just have to plan. You know, so you make a plan, you do sprint planning. It's not going to change. So yeah, that's another way of doing it. So you could also do Scrum, like you're not allowed to call it Scrum then, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Appreciate it.
So the next question, I think, anyway, is from Maru. So what other ways of modeling the sprint goal do you think could be useful or powerful other than the textual one? I'm asking this especially because I like to string together multiple sprinkles for my work as a PO.
I'm not sure I understand the question, to be fair.
Maru, are you still here? Maybe come off mute and ask.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hello. You've shown us an example of describing a sprint goal. That's the technical one. I was wondering if you've given any thought or you've seen or used other ways to model a sprint goal. Visual ones, for example.
No, I haven't, but I hope maybe I will see pictures, right? So, I mean, I've received many messages, of course. So here's the thing, when I receive messages, it's usually because people are excited about something they've read in the book and they want to do it. And then they let me know, hey, we're doing this. So I haven't yet, but maybe I will, right? Maybe there are other ways. So if you have any good ideas, try it out.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Let's see, we've got about 3 minutes. We have more questions here. Okay, from Kimberly. She wants to know, do these same techniques apply when creating PI goals and team level PI goals? Anything special to consider for the PI? So I suppose for those who are doing safe.
Yeah, so here's the thing, like when we enter the world of safe, it's very difficult for me to answer these questions because the example I used of a goal that's not a goal but an output, that's from the world of safe. You know what I mean? So if you also look the PI planning examples that they provide in the safe documentation, it's all output based. It's not really goals. So yes, it can work, right? Because you can use it with product goals. All the same principles apply to product goals and sprint goals. A product goal is just, so the way I phrase it is like an epic is too big to work on in a sprint. A product goal is the same thing. It's too big. It doesn't fit in the sprint. But all the characteristics are the same. Yeah, apart from that, we need to know, why are we trying to do this? Why does it matter? And then you can make these small steps towards it. So I think that's the key thing. But in the world of safe, I think very often companies choose to do safe because they want to coordinate. They have all these outputs they want to produce, and they don't really have, a good idea of the outcomes. So yeah, setting the bar that high, I don't think it will be productive. But please try it out, prove me wrong. But this is how I understand it from interacting with safe practitioners.
Do you have time for 2 more questions?
Absolutely.
We'll stop there. So what would be the advantage of having a sprint goal related to only a few items of the sprint instead of just having fewer items in the sprint?
Instead of having fewer items in the sprint. I'm not sure I understand that question. Like, so I think maybe can the person elaborate?
Yeah. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name.
Yeah, it's from me, Guillaume.
Hey,
hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my question is, let's say I don't have sprint goals. I'm trying to figure out if it's something for me. I'm sure there is value in it. But no, I want to know if I were to have just a lighter sprint with fewer items, and perhaps I wouldn't even need sprint goals and I would be sure to deliver everything. So my question is, should I have a sprint goal with a bigger sprint, or should I consider having just a lighter sprint and fewer items and no sprint goal?
Yeah. So basically, the sprint goal keeps you anchored in what you're trying to achieve, right? And if you have the tickets, like 3 tickets, you may also describe them in a way that you've got a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve. But that's one of the main benefits of a sprint goal. Like, it provides the mission or the objective, and as well, like, it helps to inspect and adapt. Then, right? Like, so let's say it's those 3 items. Let's say it's more complicated than expected. You can still make the most progress during the sprint. But you just discover it's more complicated than expected. So yeah, I think the key thing there is what you're suggesting is great. Keep it humble, don't pull the full sprint. I think that you're managing flow then, which is awesome. You know what I mean? But it's not the same as having a single objective. It's more of like a team is a group of people working towards a common goal. If I think about all the examples of great teamwork, there always was a common goal where people were rallying towards. And that's where a sprint goal as well comes in. We all know, hey, we're going to work on this together. This is the goal. At the moment you have 10 different things, people can still work hard, but it becomes harder to have teamwork because they're all going to do their own little thing. Does it make sense?
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think some people are having to drop off for another meeting.
That's okay. That's cool.
I think one more question here, maybe from Bruce. He wants to know, can you repeat the two-part statement or advice that you gave? It was something along those lines.
Two-part? What do you mean?
Bruce, maybe you can come off mute and explain if you're still here.
Yeah. Yes. Hi.
Hey, Bruce.
You made a statement. I noted it here in a little bit of note taking, and you started saying something along the lines of, "If you want gradual improvements, don't have a super strict sprint goal." Something about letting people be innovative. It was like a two-liner of advice.
Oh yeah. I know what you're meaning. So basically, if you look, for example, at Elon Musk and Tesla and SpaceX, what he does really well is he sets a really aggressive goal, because then it forces people to really innovate, because so sometimes he does that. But how do you say, you can also have gradual improvement goals. And it's just a different, like if you want out of the box thinking, you really think like, how can we do it completely different? An aggressive goal can really help, because all these small little improvements that you want to do gradually, they're not going to add up. I mean, they might add up ultimately, right, to a crazy improvement, right? But you're not going to shift the paradigm and do something completely different. So this is kind of my thinking. If you really want to kind of say, hey, what if we want to make our product twice as cheap? You know what I mean? Like half the costs. How could we achieve that? Versus, okay, we're going to reduce costs by 1% this sprint. Or I'm just saying something, right? Both are viable options, but one goes for a local optimum, right? Like something which is nearby. The other one might be like doing it something crazy. Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, I think we are to the end of the questions. So ran a few minutes over, but Maarten, thank you so much for joining us today and your willingness to share your time and knowledge with us here at Scrum Masters of the Universe. We really appreciate it. It was very informative, and I really enjoyed it. And for all of you who came, thank you for coming today and for your engagement and your questions. And we hope to see you at the next Scrum Masters of the Universe event. Again, Maarten, thank you so much. Everybody else, have a great rest of your day.